Good afternoon. My name is Bradford Glover, and I am the Vice President of Student Affairs at Glover's University. I've been asked to come down here to talk to the new hires in reference to give a brief presentation, about a 10 to 15 minute presentation of the history of the student affairs, the First, Second, and Fifth Amendments, state and federal regulations that impact student affairs, possible areas of discrimination and solutions for avoiding them, diversity, what does that mean within our Department of Student Affairs, and expectations from Glover's University's professionals working within the Student Affairs Department. Now, let's start with the history of student affairs. Student affairs as a separate profession within higher education with graduate programs, professional association, journals, and scholarships is a relatively new phenomenon. However, the roots of student affairs profession can reach all the way back to the colonial era and the earliest years in American higher education. The doctrine of loco partes, literally in place of the parent, empowered colleges and universities to manage students closely, as students were viewed in those times as emotionally immature and requiring strict adult supervision. By the mid-1800s, academic life at American colleges and universities has changed radically. The faculty at the time were significantly influenced by European, predominantly German universities. European universities viewed the faculty exclusion responsibility to the training of the intellect. Consequently, American faculty members began to earn doctorates in large numbers, develop expertise in self-discipline, and maintain active research agendas. By the turn of the 20th century, faculty involvement in students' discipline has significantly diminished. In the 1920s, the first administrators were hired. Their principal area of work was student personnel matters. Many of the traditional functions of the student affairs profession emerged in the early part of the 1900s. The core values of the student affairs profession gained widespread recognition and acceptance in higher education with the publication of the Student Personal Point of View, a landmark report issued in 1937 by the American Council on Education. The relationship between students in college and universities changed significantly during the 1960s. The legal concept of loco partes was greatly eroded by the courts. The USA Supreme Court decision in Dixon versus Alabama State Board of Education in 1961 defined a person over the age of 18 years as a legal adult. In the 1960s and 1970s, the student affairs profession established the theoretical base as a framework for its knowledge and practice. The student affairs profession matured in the 1980s and 1990s with much professional practice grounded in student development theory. During the 20-year period, the diversity of students increased in every respect. The number of African Americans, Hispanics, and Latin and Native American students enrolled in higher education grew at all types of colleges and universities across the United States. The globalization of higher education in the 1900s and 2000s has certainly affected the student affairs profession. The American model of student affairs practice and the organization of student affairs functions spurred great interest at colleges and universities in Europe, Latin America, and as well as Asia. The heightened security of the years following the attack of September 11 on the Twin Towers has also brought attention to international students studying at American colleges and universities as well. So this gives you sort of a history from the Student Affairs Department and how it came to be. The second thing I want to discuss is the First, Second, and Fifth Amendments, and as they pertain to student affairs profession. Now, these are probably the most three important amendments that we must abide by and understand. The First Amendment safeguards the right of every American to speak and think freely. It promises the freedom of expression, inquiry, and importance of education to students. So freedom of speech. This is something that if a student wants to speak, we have to respect what they say, and just go from there. You know what I mean? It's freedom of speech. We are a campus that believes in freedom of speech, and so we allow them to view their views without being discriminated at all. Now, the Second Amendment to the United States protects the right for people to keep and bear arms, and was adopted in December 15th, 1791. This is also part of the Bill of Rights. This is number 2 of 10 of the Bill of Rights. Now, the bear arms. Now on campuses on Glover's campus, we follow the state rule where you cannot bear arms. So that's something that we do not allow here. We follow the state regulations there, but it is, we do have our professionals, our law enforcement that do have carry guns, but as far as students, it's something that we don't allow here on campus as well. Now the Fifth Amendment is the right for people to be secure in their persons, house, papers, and effect against unreasonable search and seizures to not be violated. No warrant shall be issued but upon probable cause. This is basically due process. The Fifth Amendment is the protection of the due process. Now, the third thing that we want to discuss is the state and federal regulations that impact student affairs. Now, for us, state regulations, for the state, we have to abide by any state law that could include the drinking age, the smoking age here in Nevada, since we are a legalized cannabis state. We have to abide by those rules, but there's not going to be any drinking or smoking of marijuana or gun laws within our campus. We are also federally regulated by the Department of Education Work Study Program and the Veteran Education Assistance Act of 2008. So anything that's governed state, federally, we fall under that. I would always have to say that accreditation is something that we at Glover's University have to abide by in order for us to keep our doors open. So with anything state laws, we have to abide by, and federal laws we have to abide by as well. We could talk about treating people with disabilities, those who have disabilities. We have to make sure that we provide services to them as well. Now, some areas of discrimination solution for avoiding them. Student affairs profession are ideally suited to help and learn about diversity, negotiated complex interactions that can result in conflict. So an example of this, I would say, if a student came in, if the student was from let's say an African American male, he comes in, and then we refuse services to him, let's say in the career service department, and then this at the same time, a student of a different race comes in, and yet we provide services that one, and both of their circumstances were similar. Now, these are examples of discrimination that we would not tolerate here at Glover's University. Glover's University, we don't discriminate. We're open to everybody, regardless of age, sex, religion. It doesn't matter to us. We're supposed to respect everybody here, and that's what we will do here as well. And one way that we do this is because since we have a lot of interaction as the academic side with students, is that we will do professional development. We will have personal development, and it'll talk about diversity. It'll talk about the population that we have here. We are a Hispanic serving institute, so how do we deal with these certain things? So as a university, we have to abide and ensure that that we minimize discrimination as much as possible, and it's not tolerated and will not be tolerated from the personnel within the Student Affairs Department. The next section I want to talk about is diversity. Students in higher education have become more and diverse in many dimensions: ethnic, age, sexual identity, sexual orientation, race, gender, religious, physical ability, interests, all of these things. Several factors have contributed in creating a diverse student bodies that populate the campuses in America in higher education institutions. The Civil Rights Movement and resulting federal regulations and the Civil Rights Act 1964 combined with increased diversity in the immigration population literally has changed the face of American higher education. As you guys see, we're seeing more people of color. We're seeing more different races. We're seeing age. We're seeing differences at our campuses. And just one thing that, we have to be aware of is diversity. We have to be aware of all of our student body, whether they're black, white, Hispanic, Native American, Indian, it doesn't matter. Regardless of who they are, we have to be conscious of who they are and just be able to provide service to, no matter what. And ways we could do that is just to be self-awareness. Again, it's just if you see something that's going right on the university, and if there's not a policy or anything written for it, bring it to my attention. I would definitely, sit there and talk about it as well. Expectations from Glover's University. The mission of Glover's University is to champion student success through the delivery of evidence-based programs and services that promote access, progress, and completion. The Division of Student Affairs aspires to be nationally recognized for our commitment to exemplary leadership in identification, implementation, and assessment of evidence-based practice leading to extraordinary student success outcomes. Some of the core values is growth and development, inclusion, evidence-based practices, interdependency, communication, integrity, and engagement. This is what I and everyone and every other professional at Glover's University needs to adhere to. Discrimination is something that we won't tolerate. We will abide by the state and federal regulation that impacts student affairs, our governing body. For example, the one in Nevada is Nevada System of Higher Education. We have to abide by their state regulations, and they have to abide by their federal regulations, and so on and so forth. So in this discussion, we just talked about the history of student affairs, the First, Second, Fifth Amendments, state and federal regulations, possible areas of discrimination, diversity, what does that mean for us, and the expectations. I just want to say thank you for joining me today. I wish you the best in your profession, and just understand diversity is a very important thing. And diversity, we plan to serve everybody, and we're going to give the utmost 100% student services to our students here at Glover's University. Thank you. Bye-bye.